I think when it happened, we were afraid, did we just kill him?
Well, that was my question because I'm going like, I was freaking out. What is it like being compared to such an iconic couple in television history?
Big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
Welcome to Buzzworthy Radio. Here's your host, NaVell J. Lee.
One of my favorite sitcoms is celebrating its 30th anniversary this year with Everybody Loves Raymond. And we already had the chance to interview some of the cast as well as the writers of the show when we visited them at the Paley Center for Media. Well, we got to add a little addition to that when we sat down with Mike Royce. We got to talk about some of our favorite episodes of the series and what can be expected, or what was expected, at the Everybody Still Loves Raymond panel. One of my favorite episodes it's from season 7, and I can't remember the title of it, but it was the episode with Robert's girlfriend with the fly.
Yeah, she's the one, it's called. Yeah.
She's the one. And not just because of the funny aspects of it, especially with Ray having to explain the fact that he saw her eat the fly, but because of right before the ending scene of that episode, it stood out to me with how Robert had said to both his mom and dad that he was, how do I say it? Maybe there's no one else there that's for this.
Right.
And that stuck with me. And then also when you see Peter Boyle get up and say, "Hey, son," that stood out to me the most because you really don't see Frank having that kind of emotion with his kids. And this was the point where you see Frank he realizes that his son is now at rock bottom.
Right.
And he knew he was at rock bottom and he wanted to be there for him. So I think that episode really solidified that as much as we may somehow feel like we're annoyed with these in-laws, you actually see that Marie and Frank love this kid. And I'm saying it as a kid because this is their kid.
Yeah.
So that's really what stood out to me, that you finally see this moment where as much as you think that Marie thought that Ray was the favorite, you really see that she really did love Robert.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, and in the Lucky Suit episode, that's also big between Marie and Robert. You know, she ruins his interview for the FBI by ironing his suit. And then, of course, he's furious at her. He comes in the door with that amazing expression of like wide-eyed,
right?
Looks insane. But then, later she is his mother and she doesn't really love that he's a policeman because he's in danger all the time.
Right.
And you see that she cares so much about him. It's just in a different way than Ray, and it doesn't come out as much. And, the Barones are a family, intergenerational, combination of people who spend every minute together. So that breeds, I don't want to say contempt, but doesn't breed harmony.
Yeah.
So, it was a lot of the advertisements for the show were, it's a dysfunctional family. And I guess it sort of is, but it was, in a way, it was functional. It's just that, the comedy parts, you're seeing the dysfunction. You're seeing the conflict. Comedy is not funny if there's no conflict. So you're getting on each other's nerves and all the little things. And these are the sort of timeless things that you're talking about that happened in Everybody Loves Raymond. They're still true today. When you're married for a long time and you have kids, there are certain just tasks and ways that you rub up against each other that breed familiar arguments. And, Phil and Ray were kind of geniuses in helping sort of illustrate those in a really funny way. I mean, I was proud to be one of the writers. I was a fan of the show, like you were, for 3 seasons, and then I got to be a writer on it. So I got to just watch and admire it, and then be living this dream of actually writing on it. But I can, without a conflict of interest, say I'm a big fan of Everybody Loves Raymond, even though I worked on it, because I was before I got on the show.
So did you join, was it the season where the Perron family went to Italy that you joined? Or
yes. Was that season 4 or 5? I think that was 5.
4, right?
I joined season 4.
Okay.
Yeah. I think Italy was season 5. But I could be wrong. But yeah. I joined season 4.
That was such an interesting story to hear about, the fact that Ray did not want to travel, and how they incorporated that into the story.
Yeah.
And it was just hearing some more of the backstory that some of these instances that were in these episodes actually came from real life events. And speaking of Aaron, when I spoke with Aaron, the one where it was I think it was the 10th anniversary episode.
Yeah.
And Ray recorded over the wedding tape.
Yes.
And I heard that was actually a real life story. And I just sat there like, oh.
No, a real thing that happened, which was so often the case, that somebody would come in and say, this thing happened. Sometimes it was just in conversation. In other words, sometimes a person didn't know, oh, something happened to me and it's perfect for the show. Although in this case, that was that. But often we would just start talking about what happened to you over the weekend. What happened to you? You know, you come in and I'm mad about this, or my spouse doesn't like me right now for this reason. You know, the suitcase episode,
that's
baggage.
Right.
That's Tucker Colley coming in and going, I think I'm having a fight with my wife, but we're not talking to each other.
Yeah.
About this suitcase thing. And, you know, Steve Skrovan has the joke about if you get in an argument with your spouse, you keep it going so you get a second act, you know?
Really?
Like, I might give up right now, but let's see if there's more to this that I can use for the show. Of course, he's exaggerating, but like, we just mined everything from what we were actually living through. And it's not like we're living such interesting lives. Yeah. We're just we're at least living relatable lives. And Phil's theory was always, if it's happening to you, it's happening to someone somewhere else, and probably a lot of people. And, you know, our job was obviously to present stories that felt the most relatable. Right. So it was always based on something. Even The Fly, I don't know about, The Fly was a rare instance of Ray bringing in a situation that he thought of that I think was based on something not quite literally someone eating a fly.
Yeah.
But Ray seeing something that Robert doesn't, you know, having to try to convey this incredibly weird information to his brother.
I had to ask this, and I don't know if you have any intel on this, and I may have to ask Tom Caltabiano about this, but there was a picture I saw recently, maybe like within the last month, from a behind the scenes episode, and it was the one where Frank fell through the stairs.
Frank goes downstairs,
and it came to my attention that he did that stunt. Peter Boyle did that stunt.
I guess that's true. They constructed, Tom does know all the details on this, but yeah, they made a little lift that like took him down. And I think when it happened, we were afraid, did we just kill him?
Well, that was my question, because I'm going like, I was freaking out when I heard, because when I heard that it was actually Peter doing it, the first thing I said was, oh my God, did he die?
Yeah.
Even though I know he didn't, but I'm just, you know.
It's really hard on a multicam to have a stuntman that doesn't look like a stuntman, because you're right close, you know, it's a theater setting. There's not a lot of ways to hide that kind of thing. So they made a rig for Peter. The crew was an amazing crew, and they made this thing where, it went down very quickly. And Tom knows all the details, but made it so Peter, not a young man at that point, could actually do the stunt.
Right. But that was a very interesting little piece of information. And even I kind of just sat back and was like, oh, I'm going to look at this scene very differently now. Just a tad.
Yeah.
But we're celebrating 30 years here at ATX of the show. And we have a whole slew of the writers here. Lou Schneider's here, who I absolutely adore. When I met him, I fanned out a little bit because I watched him used to host the game show, Make the Grade.
Oh my goodness. You watched Make the Grade?
I watched Make the Grade.
Wow.
And obviously Aaron's here, and Phil and Ray are here to talk about the show. But I know we mentioned in the beginning about what we thought about why everybody loves this show so much. I'm very curious too, when I go to this panel tonight, how some of these audience members feel. Like, what is it about Raymond that is still watched to this day? I feel like everybody still binges this show, whether it's on Peacock or Paramount Plus. Everybody's still watching the show. I'm doing a rewatch of it again. I started rewatching the show because even for me, I didn't start from the beginning. When I came into Raymond, it was around season 4, season 5. I never really saw the earlier episodes of the series.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm now seeing it as if it were brand new in this aspect, because obviously they're episodes I've never watched before.
Right.
And watching it from the beginning, getting to the point where I then started to really know and recognize the show, it's so interesting to see how it went from where it was from season 1 to getting to where I started it in season 4 and 5.
Yeah. I have a very writerly theory about why the show is like endures, because there's the obvious reasons. It's very relatable. The cast was amazing. Phil is an amazing showrunner who put together, he was a genius at like slicing the onion and like, because you're talking about 5 people in a few sets telling different stories for 200 episodes, 200 plus. And Phil found a way to tell a story about these same people and their same dynamics, but you're exploiting those dynamics that we like so much, but telling a different story with it every time. It takes real genius to be able to do that. And, you know, I have learned everything I know about writing from him and Ray, and, you know, consistently try to measure up to them. And one thing that the two of them really had an instinct for was, on a lot of sitcoms, you would see a conceit stretched out too far. And, you know, these things kind of like the misunderstanding where you're like, if someone would just say this, the whole plot would fall apart. But we have to make it so that that character doesn't say that, so that we can have our comedy for 22 minutes.
Right.
And Phil and Ray were extremely like, if the audience is saying, why doesn't this just happen? It should happen. Right. You know, we should get past that. And that takes you into a more interesting story. So it's like the thing that might be the end of a normal sitcom up until that point, or, you know, many sitcoms, let's say, the thing that might be the end becomes the midpoint. And you're like, oh, I thought that was going to be the end. Now we're only halfway done. Where's it going to go from here? And so, you know, taking a left turn and the story goes into a place where you didn't expect it to go. They really, and all the other writers like were great at figuring that kind of stuff out. So you were not telling a super typical story, or it might start out like a typical story and you thought you knew where it was going, and it rarely would go to that place.
How often would it break from the script and it was a lot of improvisation on the set? Was that a thing for this show? Or?
0 times.
Really?
There was definitely no improvisation. There were joke changes. In other words, we would write alt jokes. That was mostly for Ray. Ray loved writing alt. So in between the morning run through and the taping that night, some of us would go into his dressing room and we would write alt jokes to run in. Sometimes if a joke didn't work, but usually if a joke didn't work, we would kind of like on the spot try to pitch on a new thing. Ray just liked doing alternates, and sometimes the alternates were for other actors. But, you know, if you got one joke and we got the laugh, he's like, let's try something else just to have an option. You know, sometimes you try something a little crazier. But as far as like actually making stuff up on the spot, that was not. It was all, you know, you can't really do that with a multicam. You can maybe do it with a single cam because there's more ability to edit,
right?
You know, but it was all written alts.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And lastly, I gotta ask about, because we're doing this panel tonight, I can't wait to go to it. I'm so excited for it. What are you excited about with doing this reunion with everybody tonight here at ATX? What is it?
Any excuse to see these people who I wrote with for all that time. I was so fortunate and spoiled to spend 6 years. I got my first job. I'm on a hit show. We get nominated for Emmys. We win Emmys.
Yeah.
You know, you know, for all this stuff, they built this show for the first 3 seasons and I got to join. And then when we got done, I was like, okay, where's my next hit show that I get to go on? Like, I was just like, I didn't know how show business worked. I was, like I said, extremely spoiled. So, you know, we formed a lot of bonds, and it was just, we still are friends and go out to dinner plenty of times. And so now we have an excuse to talk about our old show together and spend some time. So that's what I like.
I can't wait. I'm so looking forward to it, Mike. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Letting me fan out a little bit about Everybody Loves Raymond. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
We're heading back over across the pond with the cast of Tommy and Tuppence, featuring Josh Dillon and Antonia Thomas, and find out why one of the writers of the show consider their characters to be the Ross and Rachel of our generation. Josh Dillon and then Antonia Thomas is joining me from Tommy and Tuppence. How are you?
Good, thanks. How you doing? I watched the entire series and it is absolutely wonderful. I loved it. And just your chemistry on the show is just, it's thrilling to watch. And this iteration, from my understanding of it, this is the first English contemporary version of this. So uh, I want to put this in here too, because I'm going to forget this factoid. I watched the interview with Phoebe Claire Powell where she said that your characters are somewhat Ross and Rachel of Friends.
Yeah.
In this world. So what is it like being compared to such an iconic couple in television history?
Big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
Thanks, Pia.
Lots of pressure. But she's written such great scripts where, you know, the kind of will they, won't they is so, I think, well crafted, along with the, you know, the way that she's managed to balance that with what makes Agatha Christie, you know, an Agatha Christie story just that, which is the kind of like the detective crime element of it. I think she balances both well, so that there's the kind of heart of the story, which is the pull and pull of pull.
The will they or won't they?
And then the crime that drives it, essentially.
Yeah.
It's so, for me watching it, one of the things I loved about it was just the way that it ends in an episode. You get the reconstruction at the end. You see all of the scenes with that in there. And not many shows that deal with mysteries and crimes like this get to see those type of scenes in those episodes. You never really saw that. The last time I saw that was on Murder, She Wrote. So getting to see this in this new series was such a thrill for me. So what just go over just the fact of getting to work on this show and do such scenes like this, especially with the stunts that goes on in this show. How exciting is that to do all of that stuff, especially with the reconstruction scenes part?
Well, it's so exciting. There's so much going on. And I think the experience of trying to keep up with all of that. So we would spend, you know, our evenings whilst we were shooting, sitting down with our scripts, kind of like our characters do with the cases, and pouring over the details, trying to connect all the dots, join the dots, and keep it all in our heads, which was difficult.
Which was quite hard.
But part of the fun, and I think the energy of that, felt right for the characters, because they're not, you know, they're not professionals. They almost stumble into to the crime world.
Yeah, there was a bit of a life imitating art in that regard, because we were like, the stories in Agatha Christie style, they sort of weave and wind, and there are red herrings, and you know, and you're just like really trying to figure out like, wait, hang on, what happened here? And no, that happened there, and did it? You know, we were constantly doing that, so that every time, and because we were shooting completely out of order.
Oh, you shot them out of order.
Completely out of order. And like some, you know, episodes, like different episodes, different days, we'd constantly be getting to work going, hang on, okay, so what happened here now? And then we'd do a whole recap again, and then we get it. So like, yeah. And those big, when you say the reconstruction scenes, you mean at the end?
Yeah, where
we're doing the big recap.
The reveal and everything like that.
They were a lot of pressure. And we started with some of those as well. We started doing episode 4, like recap of the whole, like in the theater, like everything that had happened before.
That was a fun one.
Before we'd shot anything else. And we were like, oh my gosh, you know, it was a challenge, but in a way it was like right in at the deep end. And so it kind of set the tone for the rest of it, which was cool. Yeah.
I figured like once you get that out of the way, as you're saying, that was a little bit of nerve wracking, but now you got to do it. Now the rest of it should come easy to you. Exactly. You would think.
You would hope. Yeah, no, but that was it. It was more like, okay, now we get to do the kind of like the fun bit. Those bits were fun, but
it's full on.
It was fun.
The deep.
It was stressful.
But you guys being at ATX, having the show get the sneak preview here throughout this weekend, what was that like for you to have the audience get the opportunity to see this show for the first time?
It's a really beautiful screening earlier, and we haven't seen all the episodes, so you've seen more than us. And
so I'm not going to tell you what happens next.
Yeah.
You're going to have to wait until September. Yes, that's right. To be continued.
It was so nice. It was lovely. It was a really warm reception. There was some kind of real, you know, there was a lady at the end, because we were talking about the kind of the purists in regards to Agatha Christie and how some people may not appreciate the updated contemporary version of it. And there was a woman that was like, she was like, I'm a total purist, but I loved it. I thought it really worked in the modern day setting. And that was so nice to hear. And just heartening, and like, yeah, we just hope that everyone else is going to like it too.
Why do you think that is? You think that people may not want to potentially see it in the contemporary version? For me, I loved it, and I've known the history of Tommy and Tuppence from before, but in this iteration, it works because of who's involved in the chemistry between both of you on the show. But why do you think that is? That maybe they may not be somewhat accepting to potentially a contemporary version of the show or the series of the characters?
I mean, I don't know. Hopefully people will just accept it with open arms. But I think that, like, it's not been done before. So every adaptation of an Agatha Christie has been a period thing, and so there's always going to be, I think, some trepidation around how that might translate. But I think luckily, Tommy and Tuppence, quite particularly, they feel like quite contemporary characters when you read them in, even Agatha Christie's version. Like, Tuppence is quite a sort of a modern woman, even though she's sort of like, the story is sort of set in the 20s, or the first one is. So I think it updates really well.
So people love Agatha Christie for good, like it's incredible. It's a treasure trove, and it's beloved. So when anything is loved that much, I think people are, they care about it.
Protective. Yeah.
They're very protective.
It's a good thing. And obviously the Agatha Christie estate have been
fully involved
in this, and all the people that have made it really care and really love Agatha Christie. So it's been done with a lot of love and also a lot of imagination.
Have you guys been a fan of Tommy and Tuppence before you got these roles? And if so, if you were, like, how was the feeling like when you got the roles of these characters? What was going through your mind?
I have to say no. I didn't know, knew all of the old, Miss Marple and Poirot, and the more obvious kind of the stories that have been given more platform, but didn't know Tommy and Tuppence, and so it was a joy to get to know them.
Same for me.
Same for you?
Yeah, same for me.
Wow.
It was lovely. And then read the books, not all of them, but read and just got sucked into that world straight away. The spirit of the characters, I think Phoebe, the writer, has really captured that in the script, and it's fun.
Yeah.
So lastly, as we wrap up, I just want you both to describe your characters in the best way that you can. What and who are Tommy and Tuppence in this iteration?
Okay, so Tommy Beresford, my character, is a successful crime novelist. He's written, I think, a couple books that done really well, and he's got writer's block, and he's living in his aunt's flat in Hampstead, and he's just stuck, and he's looking for inspiration, and that's what we meet him at the beginning of the story.
And Tuppence Cowley is an actress trying to make it in LA and struggling, and is married to somebody else, and in a marriage where she's feeling a little bit lost, and returns to the UK to try and maybe rekindle her kind of just to like find her kind of creative center again, whether that's in acting or, she doesn't really know, she's lost. And that's where we find her, and that's where they kind of come back together.
Well, we gotta wait and see. I can't wait for everybody to watch this in September. It's really good. You guys, thank you so much for talking with me. This was such a pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in to The Buzz. Catch all episodes on Spotify. Remember to like and subscribe. Visit buzzworthyradiocast.com.